Alright, let's talk about communism, a word that still manages to stir up strong feelings even though the Cold War ended ages ago. Imagine a world without billionaires, where everyone shares resources and works together for the common good. Sounds utopian, right? That's the basic idea behind communism. At its heart, communism advocates for collective ownership, meaning the community as a whole owns and controls the means of production, factories, land, and so on, rather than individuals. This, in theory, eliminates the gap between the rich and the poor, creating a classless society. Central planning is another key feature, with the government making economic decisions to ensure everyone's needs are met. Think of it like a giant potluck. Except instead of everyone bringing their signature dish, the government organizes the entire thing, decides who grows the potatoes, who bakes the bread, and makes sure everyone gets a fair share. Sounds great on paper, but in reality, it's a lot more complicated than that. The goal is a society free from exploitation, where everyone benefits equally from their labor. Now, whether this idealistic vision translates well into the real world is a whole other story, one that's been debated, analyzed, and fought over for centuries. The roots of communist thought can be traced back centuries, but the big kahuna, the man who really gave it shape, was Karl Marx. Along with Friedrich Engels, he wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848, a fiery critique of capitalism that became the Bible for communist movements worldwide. Marx argued that capitalism, with its focus on private property and profit, inherently creates class struggle and exploitation. He believed that the working class, or proletariat, would eventually rise up against the capitalist class, or bourgeoisie, leading to a revolution and the establishment of a communist society. These ideas resonated with many, particularly in countries grappling with poverty, inequality, and social unrest. From Russia to China to Cuba, communist revolutions toppled governments promising a better future for the working class. However, the path to that utopian communist society proved to be far more complex and often brutal than Marx had envisioned. Now here's where things get a little tricky. People often use the terms communism and socialism interchangeably, but they're not quite the same thing. Think of them as two branches on the same ideological tree. Both aim for greater economic equality and social justice, but they differ in their approach. Socialism generally advocates for a mixed economy, where the government plays a significant role in regulating industries and providing social welfare, but private property and markets still exist. Think Scandinavian countries with their robust social safety nets and high taxes. Communism, on the other hand, goes further, aiming for the complete abolition of private property and a stateless, classless society. It's like socialism's more radical cousin, the one who shows up to family gatherings with strong opinions and a Che Guevara t-shirt. While socialism has been implemented with varying degrees of success in many countries, achieving true communism has proven far more elusive, often devolving into authoritarian regimes and economic inefficiency. The 20th century saw the rise and fall of numerous communist regimes. The Soviet Union under Lenin and later Stalin became the first communist state, followed by China under Mao Zedong and Cuba under Fidel Castro, each with its own unique interpretation and implementation of Marxist ideology. These regimes achieved some notable successes, particularly in improving literacy rates, healthcare access, and industrial development in their early years. However, they also faced severe criticism for their authoritarian methods, suppression of dissent, and economic inefficiencies. The Soviet Union, for instance, while a major military power, struggled to provide basic consumer goods for its citizens. China, after Mao's death, embarked on a path of economic reforms that incorporated elements of capitalism, leading to remarkable economic growth but also widening income inequality. Today, while countries like China, Cuba, Laos, and Vietnam identify as communist, their realities are far more complex, a mix of socialist principles, market forces, and often, a hefty dose of authoritarianism. The dream of a truly classless, stateless communist utopia remains just that, a dream.